Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365. Now moving out of Week 15 of the NFL and into Week 16. It's past mid-December. Hope everybody's having a great Tuesday morning. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Tuesday morning?
Doing well. Getting closer, creeping up to Christmas. So happy holidays, everybody. NFL gearing up for the stretch run. 3-12-2 teams, man, in the NFC.
Are you a big Christmas guy, John, or what?
No, more annoying than anything else. Too much to do, but yeah, from the holiday standpoint, I hope everybody enjoys it. But yeah, too much extra work. Because remember, it's gearing up right when the NFL is gearing up. So it's a pain in the
right before playoff time.
Exactly.
So it is a busy time. Yep.
Yeah. So, becomes a problem in the personal life, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, good stuff there, Johnny Mac. Big game last night in the NFC. Vikings got the win. They moved to 12-2. Pretty ugly game, but they get the win. And then Lions yesterday, a lot of news. So we'll talk about the NFC. Before we get into any of that, I do want to thank all of our great viewers on JAKIB Sports, our Birds 365 Nation. Yesterday, we eclipsed 50,000 subscribers. So that is a big number there. And for those who are listening on the afternoon show, we passed 50K while we were live on the afternoon show. And after a big performance in the passing game and 50K subs on the spot, on the fly, we gave away a beautiful JAKIB Hurts jersey that I have right here. And I will send that out today. So it was a fun day. And I want to thank everybody for the 50,000 subscribers. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Really cool of all of you guys for all the support. As John tweeted out, John has been with JAKIB since we had 25 subscribers.
That's pretty good growth. I can't do the percentage. Some math genius has to do the percentage.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I think what you said on Twitter, John, was really cool. We've cultivated one of the most educated Eagles fan bases in the world, and it's pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah, man, I appreciate everybody for listening, viewing every day, whether it's, listening podcasts, whether it's viewing on demand live. We get some big live numbers. I said, two things I'm most proud of about this show is one, I do think, it's the most educated fan base in town. Maybe it was a low bar to begin with because of some of the other radio outlets, but nonetheless, I think we have. And then the second part is the fact that there's a lot of spin-off shows because of the success of this show. So I take a lot of pride in that for, I don't want to say I'm Vic Fangio, but copycats. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to, the passion of the fan base of this particular fan base specifically. And it doesn't hurt that this is a really good team and a really good organization. So, a lot of times people say negativity sells and people think we're negative and yada, yada. But, I try to frame it. I think people should be really grateful for just how strong this organization is. And that starts with Jeffrey Lurie because, boy, you look around the league and 12-2 ain't normal. I just said there's 3-12-2 teams. But this run the Eagles are on in the Nick Serianni era is not normal. They win a lot of football games.
Yep.
And there's a little bit of taking it for granted, I think, and it's really difficult to do. As you saw a couple of weeks ago with Carolina, this is a really, really difficult league to play and to consistently win week after week. I always bring up JAKIB Hurts and saying, Nick went overboard again yesterday saying how efficient he's been, like yada, yada, yada. But, man, that guy wins. He just finds ways to win football games.
Yes, he does. And big shout out to the organization. It's been a lot of fun to cover him over the last couple of years. It's been a lot of fun for me to take over hosting duties and now do that for the last, I guess it's been, 6 months? When did I take over at the draft? So I guess right around 6-7 months. So that's been a lot of fun. And John, they say when you get in the business, it can kill your fandom a little bit. And I am still a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles, but I am more a fan of the great people that watch our shows. I love talking football with them. I view them as friends. I don't know if they view me as a friend, but I view them as friends. So I appreciate each and every one of you for being here, and hitting 50K is a very cool thing. So I appreciate that. Johnny Mac, let's move into some NFC football talk. Now, I got to start with the Lions, man. I got to start with the Lions today. We're going to talk about some of the players we didn't talk about yesterday in the game. We'll give some kudos to some people. We'll break down some more of the game that we didn't get to yesterday. But I got to talk about the Lions team. Is this just in peak too early? What do you make
It's
of it,
not.
Johnny?
It's
Now
not
they're
peak.
losing David Montgomery. I mean,
it's attrition. It's not peaking too. I mean, I always say, I don't think people appreciate how many things have to go right to win a Super Bowl. And number one on that list is health. And they've just been devastated from a health standpoint. They're a great football team when everybody's healthy. And in fact, pretty concrete that's the best team in football when everybody's healthy. A bunch of people aren't healthy.
Yeah.
And you're losing the Aiden Hutchinsons of the world. We don't even talk about that. That's the best defensive player in the league.
Yeah.
Early this season, Alim McNeil, a guy who just signed a massive contract because of how he's performed and one of the best interior defensive linemen. They just lost him for the season. Carlton Davis, they just got back, had been injured. Probably their best cornerback. Not probably. Is their best cornerback. Arnold might be more talented, but as a rookie, he's just getting pass interference calls all over the place. So Davis is a better player. He's injured with a broken jaw and probably out for the season. David Montgomery, we talked about the great nickname, Sonic and Knuckles. He's Knuckles. Just a powerful, awesome compliment to Jahmyr Gibbs. He's out for the season. I mean, and on and on and on. And lesser guys like Anzalone is one I think they're going to get back as their best linebacker. Malcolm Rodriguez played a lot. He's done for the season. Brian Branch was injured for a while. It's just attrition.
Yeah.
I mean, that by no means did they peak early. That team was going to go do special things. But if those stars don't align, it's not the old cliche in the NFL. It's not who you play; it's when you play them.
Yeah. Yep.
So if you're playing Detroit in week 7, you're probably going to get boat raced. If you're playing them now, they can't stop anybody. And Buffalo's tremendous offensively. We know that. Unfortunately for Eagles fans, Josh Allen probably clinched the MVP in that game. But they're a tremendous offensive team. But everybody could score on Detroit right now because they've lost so many defensive starters. They're no longer – I joked before we came on the air, there's 3 12-2 teams, Detroit, Minnesota, Philadelphia. Green Bay's the best team in the NFC North. Right now, they're the best team in third place.
And what's Green Bay sitting at? 9-3? 9-4?
10. I think they got 10.
Do they have to 10?
Double. Yeah, they won that. I think they're at 10. So 10-4.
Yeah, right. 10-4.
They're a dangerous team, but it's amazing. I mean, is Sam Darnold last night, for the people who watch the game, he's hurt. He's playing hurt. He's typically one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's, ironically, he's got a finger injury. So same as Jalen Hurts, who broke his finger, but Jalen broke it on his non-throwing hand. He's dealing with it on his throwing hand. He's very inaccurate. So, man, attrition, stars aligning. And right now, stars are aligning for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
However,
looks like conversely, John, they are aligning in Philly compared to there.
You got 3 weeks left. And that's what I mean. You don't know what's going to happen in Washington. They got to win that game. They got to fight to win that game. Wrong injury at that time, things can turn on a dime in the NFL because of the attrition.
No doubt about it. Lions dealing with a lot, man. I think the Eagles are the certified best team in the NFL right now after what happened with the Lions. A lot of bad luck over there, man, with what's going on with injuries for them. What do you think of the Vikings, John? Did you catch that game last night? I watched that game last
Yeah,
night,
I
and
watched it.
we talked a little pre-show, and I'm like, boy, it's ugly, but you're right. You're like, you look
You
up and
look
it's
up
up
and it's 27 to
27-6. I'm like, shit.
6. And
Yeah.
it's like, and they gave up a late touch. They put in all their backups. And that's the only reason. Well, Chicago blocked a punt and they put on their backups defenders. Yeah, it didn't look good, but you look up and it's 27 to 6. And yeah, I mean, people who listen to this show know I love just the way Brian Flores plays defense. I like aggression. I think people in Philadelphia like aggression. I think they would love him. But, Vic Fangio's here doing the exact opposite. I don't know. I got to check Vic's blitz rates. He didn't blitz. You know that? He did not blitz in that entire game. Did not once. Not once.
He doesn't have to.
No, he doesn't have to. And they were only out there for whatever, 40-something plays.
But, 41 plays, which is insane in itself, by the way.
Yeah, so that's part of it. But I just find it, you see how good he is. And, let's be honest, Philadelphia's always blitz, 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 blitz. Nobody cares anymore because it's so effective.
This defense is too good to care, John.
Exactly. 2 zone blitzes, so people might mistake it as a blitz, but it's not blitzing an extra guy. He's just replacing one with another guy to try to, obviously muddy the picture for the quarterback. But so I love Brian Flores. I love the way he plays defense. We'll see. Darnold's having a great year. Wasn't great yesterday because of the finger injury, I think, because he's normally very accurate. They almost had Brian O'Neill had to leave the game, but he came back, so they dodged a bullet there. He's one of the better right tackles in the league, not named Lane Johnson. Yeah, they're a good team, but I'm with you. Something's not right. I can't. Their skill people are tremendous.
Yeah, I like Hawkinson. Jefferson obviously is a great player. Addison's really good. And John, the guy you talk about, you've been talking about him for years, Aaron Jones.
Love that guy.
Great player. Very fun to watch.
Love that guy. And he's a legit threat as a receiver out of the backfield. He can run routes.
John, can I ask you though? I mean, I know they got great player, and I don't want to take away from Sam Darnold because I think he's done a really good job and he's earned himself a lot of money. Is it still in the back of your head though that he could turn into a pumpkin at any moment?
Oh yeah, because he played too long. But man, I tell you, I said before the season, I'm not trying to puff out my chest, and it was mainly because he spent a year with San Francisco, and people who watch this show from the beginning, know at the beginning of Brock Purdy mania, I said, I would tell Jody, Kyle's going to fall out of love with this guy, and he's got a really talented backup. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Darnold took over there at some point. Now, they kept winning last year, so obviously you're not going to change the quarterback. This year it happens, and I bet you Kyle Shanahan's wishing he had Sam Darnold back. But I thought that year he had with Kyle Shanahan, who's tremendous with quarterbacks, would really help Sam Darnold. And then he gets with Kevin O'Connell, who's now the guy when it comes to sort of grooming quarterbacks. And, Daniel Jones goes there to work with Kevin O'Connell just to sit on the practice squad to try to turn his career around. Yeah, I thought there was a chance that would hit. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I thought they were going to be 12-2. I just thought he was going to have a really good season. And he's had a really good season. And part of it is the skill people. I mean, they're right there with anybody, including Philadelphia, when it comes to skill position people. And you could argue they're a little bit better, to be honest, because of Jefferson and Hawkinson, Hawkinson's a monster.
Yeah, I like Hawkinson a lot.
Now, there was some concern because he was coming off a serious knee injury. He didn't play the first 7 games. So you never know if the guy's going to be the same when he comes back, but he's the same. And then Aaron Jones, as you met, I've loved Aaron Jones for years playing with the Packers. Single-handedly destroyed the Cowboys season last year in the playoffs. Yeah, they're good, but couple things, and ironically, it's defensively because they're not really good at cornerback and their defensive front. They're good run stoppers, but they're not good pass rushers. The interior guys, the edge rushers are phenomenal. Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel, they're really good players. But the interior guys are they're really good run stoppers, but get no push whatsoever. So I think that could be a problem in the playoffs.
3 games left, John. Eagles got to stay as healthy as possible and get to the playoffs because we're in now. I mean, I know everybody wants the 1 seed. It would be cool to get it. It would be nice to get the bye week, but getting to that playoff healthy, man, would be a blessing for this football team. John, let's get into a little bit more of the game yesterday. We'll talk to Chris Franklin in hour number 2. So for those looking for Chris after the game, we will talk to him in hour number 2. Looking forward to that. And I will take a couple super chats as well. I'll read one now. I got one from Seth. Seth says, John, I wasn't taking a shot at you yesterday. I apologize for the confusion. I was saying that others should apologize to you for being right about Serianni. I was defending you yesterday. Seth, was that my mistake? Did I read your super chat incorrectly, Seth?
I don't the Serianni. Yeah, I was I thought, maybe Zander asked me the question. I was taken aback because normally I get shit on for defending Serianni. Yeah. So I was just surprised. I never take anything personally, so you don't have to worry about that. But normally I get shit on for it, so I was just surprised that somebody thought Nick should be fired. I don't think I've ever said that.
No, Nick's doing a good job, and he's managing this team well. At least I think, at least from the outside, John, it looks like he is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how people argue. It's fine if you don't like his personality and all that kind of stuff. I mean, but it's hard to argue. His
personality's growing on me.
It's hard to argue. Well, I mean, he's kind of goofy on the field at times.
Yeah, but I don't mind. I think everybody's a little goofy. John, I think you're a little goofy. I think I'm a little goofy. I think everybody in the chat's a little goofy. I think everybody's goofy. I mean,
no,
you know what I mean?
There's some, you got to have some kind of, professionalism. Those people.
Yeah, right.
So from that standpoint, I get it, but you can't argue his success as a coach. I mean, I guess you can. You can always point to the collapse last year.
And well, the other thing people point to is the roster, where it's like he's got the best roster. And I'm like, I don't think that that's a perfect indicator of success on a team, but I guess he does have a good roster. Yeah,
but you can't. Andy Reid has a good roster. Andy Reid, it's best. The best coaches of this generation, and it's not close, are Bill Belichick and Andy Reid. And they've both been around long enough to have bad years. Did they become bad coaches in those bad years? You can't win without talent. I would say the mark of a good coach is if you got a 5-win roster, you win 7 or 8. If you got a 7 or 8-win roster, you might win 10 or 11. If you got a 12-win roster, you might turn it into 14. You're making them a little bit better. Everybody needs a big-time roster to win at a high level. Point to one coach that's won with a bunch of shitty players at a high level.
Especially in the NFL, yeah.
I don't know how many times I've said players first, talent, Jimmys and Joes over X's and O's, every cliche there is out there. That's what wins in this league. And yeah, a coach's job is to get them a little bit better than where they would go on their own. But if you don't have Super Bowl level talent, you're not going to the Super Bowl.
What would you consider this roster in terms of, like you just gave a scenario, you should turn a 5-win roster into a 7-win team. What would you consider the Eagles roster to be win-wise?
Well, I said before the season, 11, 12-ish, somewhere in that range.
Right. So if they get to 13, 14, you're talking about a good coaching performance.
Yeah. Well, you're already talking about it because you're 12 and 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, this was we all knew this was a good team. It was a matter of how good they would be. And coming off last year, there was a lot of questions. You know, so much. The Eagles were a good team last year, but I think more San Francisco kind of mentally broke them. Let's be honest. And I always talk about human nature. I think they went into that game and they got their what handed to them, and they said, "Oh shit, we're not going to be able to beat that team." And all of a sudden, it goes off the rails. But even if you look at that collapse, there were individual games they should have won. They should have beaten Seattle, but Jalen and AJ went off script. They should have beaten Arizona. Now they're also struggling with these teams, which you don't want to be in. But and all of a sudden, the narrative changes. And then we just talked about with Detroit. Like, yes, did Tampa Bay destroy them? Well, they also had some bad luck. They lose A.J. Brown in week 18. We know how this team has played with no A.J. Brown. That's really difficult. So, I think people forget a lot of the context to the collapse. Like, they weren't getting beaten like a drum every week. They kind of lost their confidence, and confidence is a big thing in this league.
That playoff game was one of the ugliest games I've ever watched.
Oh, it certainly was.
Oh my God. Josh Herman says, John, acknowledge your tribal chief, Jalen Reigns. I guess is that a nod to Roman Reigns?
That is a nod to Roman Reigns, and he's comparing Jalen Hurts to the original tribal chief. No.
Josh, you just got shot down by the great John McMullen, my friend.
That's like number one. That's who's the best player on this team. We can have that argument. We've had that argument, but it's never amongst Jalen Hurts. Not the best player on this team.
No.
Tribal chief on this team, depending on who you believe, is Saquon Barkley or A.J. Brown. I'm team A.J. Most people are team Saquon. That's the Eagles' tribal chief.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Good stuff, Johnny Mac. John, another thing I want to talk about is, and I think maybe went a little bit under the radar just because of what all the questions that the Eagles answered or what the way they beat the Steelers this weekend. But I thought they had a good first quarter, John. I know they turned the ball over twice, but they moved the football. They got 10 points on the board, and it was better offense than I've seen in the first quarter all year, really. And I thought that was a positive thing because I don't think you can go into the playoffs coming into that game. They had 17 first quarter points all year in 13 games. That's 13 quarters of football, and you have 17 points. That's the equivalent of 3 games and a quarter. They had 17 points. So I thought it was a big problem, and I thought they answered
it was
that
a big problem. I don't know if they answered it, but they
showed a step in the right direction.
They played very well. What I think it was 148-2 in the first quarter, yardage wise. I mean, yeah, they played a tremendous first quarter. I don't know if you could say, all right, they fixed it. One of the things I talked to Nick about yesterday was the empty sets. They came out in an empty set. They used more empty sets than they have all season. And they use tempo, which I've also been talking about, because they seem to get better when they start with tempo, and they started with more tempo. And Jalen Hurts talked about getting into a rhythm with Tom Brady after the game. And I think they got him into the rhythm. I'm wondering why the hell it took so long. Like, why did it take so long to do that? That's my question, which nobody's going to answer, legitimately at least. But yeah, I think it had to do, they came out in an empty set. They had more success. They did it more empty formations than I have all season, and they had more. I think the number was They had 116 yards out of empty formation, empty sets, which is more from that formation than the previous 7 games combined. So I think a lot of it was getting him in a rhythm early. And my question to Kellen Moore will be, what took so long today? Not that he's going to answer it, but so I think they learned that, hey, if we want to get this quarterback going early, you got to get him in that rhythm, which Kellen as a quarterback should, I think, understand that. I'm surprised why it took so long. But yeah, they played very well in the first quarter.
Yeah, it was
Now,
positive.
are you going to say, all right, it's fixed? Like I said, yeah. I mean, we'll see.
No, but a good step in the right direction. Fair?
Yeah, unless they say, all right, it's fixed and we'll go back to what we normally do. Like I think they should be hyper focused on making sure the quarterback gets in a rhythm early in every game.
Did you see anything different that they did in the first quarter that equated to the success that they had this week compared to previous weeks? Or, I mean, I know
Yeah,
they
just
came out
said it.
throwing the ball,
Empty
but was it
sets,
just
empty tempo? That's what they did. They haven't done it. They've done it the most in that game of any game this season. And they had more success out of that formation than the previous 7 games combined. So when they tell you they didn't change anything and that, no, they changed. They made a designed effort to get the quarterback going early because of all the shit that went on during the week. And then Nick's out there saying, oh, he's been this effective all season. Give me a break, dude. Come on.
Jalen did look decisive though, and he looked like he was locked in too. I mean, I think there's some of that goes just on the player too. He executed better there than he did in previous weeks.
Well, I think you saw the field better, and I think you saw the field better because of the empty sets. So I think it all comes together. Now there'll be adjustments. Now it's on film. Dan Quinn's a very good defensive mind. He'll see it. I'm not sure Washington is capable of doing a whole hell of a lot from a talent perspective, but from a scheme perspective, he'll probably make some adjustments to it, and we'll see what the Eagles' reaction is.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what they do there. John, to me, it appears, do you have the numbers, John, on how much man coverage versus zone coverage the Steelers played in the game?
I don't. I can probably find it in the break.
I don't know where to find that. I don't know where that would be. Is that like a next gen stat? I don't think that's a PFF thing.
That's like a true media.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. So I can email some people and try to find out. But
yeah, I just wonder because I feel like Jalen Hurts plays better versus man coverage, and the zone coverages are the ones that sometimes give him a little bit of trouble in the processing or getting through the reads. Like man coverage, he looked decisive. He was getting that ball out quick.
Yeah, well, I think
talked about it on the broadcast. Now you were at the game, so you didn't see this, but there was a clear breakdown of like 2.7 seconds, and this was Hurts' completion percentage and how good he was. And then when he holds that ball for 4 seconds, it kind of gets a lot uglier and a lot muddier.
Yeah, well, I definitely think, and that's if you saw the game last night. I mean, and that's probably. One of the disappointing things I would say, and what they were trying to evolve the offense to better understand some of those coverages that people are going to throw at you. Vic's the best at it, so it's lucky the Eagles don't have to face Vic. That's what you do against young quarterbacks. You throw a bunch of zone looks at them, they don't read it right, and
right.
They throw into coverage, and all of a sudden you're going the other way. So. But you can't really describe Jalen Hurts as a young quarterback any longer, or you shouldn't.
No, definitely not. Was this his 5th year?
Yeah. But you see, like Caleb Williams last night is a perfect example. It's the number 1 overall pick. It's all bubble screen, They don't want him doing anything. He doesn't, especially against a defensive coordinator like
Right.
Flores.
Does Caleb Williams stink or do the Bears stink?
Well, they gave the great Kevin O'Connell quote during the game for the people watching, and his quote is, there's more organizations have bailed quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, more than young quarterbacks have bailed organizations. Like you don't put Caleb Williams in with Matt Eberflus. That's just dumb. You need a guy who's going to maximize the potential. And you can do it in different ways. I mean, Jaden Daniels is having a great year. They have a defensive head coach, and they brought in Cliff Kingsbury. So you can do it some different ways. But overall, they're not exactly a quarterback incubator in Chicago, to say the least. But if you look at the way he's playing versus the way Jaden Daniels and even Bo Nix is playing, and even if you want to project down the road with J.J. McCarthy with Kevin O'Connell, it's not looking good unless they make the right decision in the offseason. And the Chicago Bears are not exactly known for making good decisions. So we'll see how it shakes out. But I think I said from day one, I hate that spot for Caleb Williams. So I would lean towards what Kevin O'Connell says in that more, organizations bail young quarterbacks more than vice versa. Your job isn't to draft a great player and say, all right, go do it. Your job is to develop that player and make him, reach his maximum potential. And I don't like the early returns in Chicago.
Good stuff there. Abe checks in. He says either it was Jalen Two Shoes or the broken finger that helped get the ball out quick. Either way, keep that shit going, Jalen. Don't hold the golden egg. I don't know if it was Two Shoes or the finger, to be honest with you, Abe.
Yeah, I he holds on to the ball a little bit too much, but it's, that's baked into his game. I've always said it was 2.78 the Super Bowl season. You're probably not going to get to that level. Right now, it's 3.14, tied for last in the league with Lamar Jackson. But as you see with Lamar Jackson, he's having his best year ever statistically. It's not a guarantee you're going to be a failure. The guys at the top of that list are one of two. They're either dual threats who are going to extend plays, which is the case with Lamar and Jalen, or they're two true play action quarterbacks who are going to, you have these long developing routes, these long developing plays by design with the scheme of the offense. So that's why Sam Darnold's at the top and Brock Purdy's at the top of longest to throw. True play action quarterbacks. So if you look at it, here are the slowest to throw. Lamar and Jalen are tied at 3.14. Then comes Darnold at 3.09. Then comes Fields at 3.04. Richardson at 2.98. Purdy at 2.96. So it's either guys, dual threat guys, or play action guys.
Right. Very specific type of player that's holding on to it a little longer. Yep.
Yeah.
Flexion checked in. He said, you can't be a tribal chief if you're not a champ. Clapping back at the Jalen Reigns comment. We got a lot of WWE fans, John. They're all waiting for us to start our WWE YouTube.
Yeah, so am I. That's big things happening over there. But
is that the JMac retirement plan? You want to launch that, John, or is that just going to become work and then it's going to kill your fandom of the WWE?
That's a good question. Yeah, you might have a point there.
Maybe a little bit more reserved.
No, because for those who don't know, it's entertainment, so you're not covering it every day. You're not going to press conference,
right?
I don't think it would. No, I don't think it would kill my fandom.
I'll get into it. I'll get into WWE. I like Roman Reigns. Philly to Chicago says, congrats on 50K. They took the Steelers' will on Sunday. Yes, they did. They did. They really did. John, that was your first takeaway in the postgame show.
Yeah.
You came on and you're like, they dominated that football team.
Oh my, they smothered them, and we haven't even talked about the defense because
Yeah,
so
which is
much
where
is
we're going next. We're going defense next.
so much has been about the offense. The defense was just unbelievable, and I thought coming into the game, that Pittsburgh offense is pretty limited, and I think Bick saw the same thing, and he was just not going to take his foot off the throat, and he never did. And I mean, whew, yeah, it was an impressive performance from the defense, and an impressive year from the I can't say enough good things about that defense. Can't say enough good things.
Yeah. Coming into that game, John, you were money about that Steelers team. You told us the offense is shitty and not that good, and I thought
Yeah.
it was better than they. I mean, they were scoring 27 points a game. They were 10-3 at the time. I'm like, really? How shitty can this offense be? I watched some Steelers games, but obviously I didn't watch every Steelers game. And your assessment of them was right on the money. Let's get into that Eagles defense, John. I know we just said the offense was shitty for the Steelers, but the defense certainly held up their end of the bargain, John. The guy who stood out to me the most was none other than Nolan Smith. He's becoming a real good player on the defense. And that right now, John, the three-man rotation at edge is working for the Eagles. Will it hold up? I don't know. But right now it looks like it's working to me.
Yeah, it is. Haven't missed a beat, really. You could argue they played better.
I think I think the injury to Bryce Huff has helped Nolan Smith tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just about throwing a guy in the deep end of the pool, as I said, and he's swimming. He was very active. So tremendously physical for how small he is. High energy guy, so he brings some of the Brandon Graham stuff on the field from that standpoint. Yeah, he had his best game, I would say, as a pro. And he played 41 snaps, and you say, well, they only had, I think, 43 total. So I mean, he was out there essentially 100% of the time. And yeah, I mean, he played a great game. Now, things will get tougher down the road. We keep saying that. It's the end of the season. It's not going to get tougher against Dallas, and it's not going to get tougher against the New York Giants. But I guarantee it might not even get that much tougher against Washington because they're limited. But at some point, they're going to play a team with a good offense. At some point. Can't tell you when it's coming. But at some point, they're going to play a team with a good offense that can do some things and can mitigate some of the things that Bick is doing. But right now, it looks really, really good. Really good.
Yep, two highest graded players on defense on Sunday versus Steelers for per Pro Football Focus were Nakobe Dean and Nolan Smith. So really good performance by both of those two guys. Nakobe Dean, John's another guy I want to talk about and what he's been able to do. Boy, has he turned the corner this year. I mean, he has really taken off, and Flex puts it in the chat. He earned my respect. He has definitely taken a step forward. And our guy Daz has been telling me for years, John, that Nakobe Dean was going to do this, and he's finally doing it, John.
Well, I didn't know he's, I told people pretty early he was the best linebacker on the team. Turns out I was incorrect, but not for the reason people
Still
thought.
A pretty good guess by you. And Zach Bond came out of nowhere.
Yeah. And Zach's been tremendous as well. But yeah, Nakobe's been a revelation. He showed up with that big brace on his right arm. I'm like, because he had an elbow thing during practice. And I'm like, that might be a problem. And all of a sudden, he's just, dominating. Yeah, and like I said, confidence is a big thing. And now he's got confidence. He's playing with confidence. I think people forget he was really bad early in the season. To the point I started to go, I might have got that one wrong. And then all of a sudden it just clicked. And really, since not since the bye week, because he came back and didn't play well against Cleveland, but then the next week it was the Giants, and ever since that game, he's been really, really good, really good. Couple games where he just completely, the Cincinnati game, the Jacksonville game, the Rams game, and this game were his best games. But yeah, you can make a strong argument that this is the best linebacker group in the NFL. And we were talking about it in the offseason as being maybe the worst. So when you talk about Vic Fangio's impact, I would start at linebacker. And that's his expertise. That's what he grew up as, a linebackers coach. And he can identify talent, and he can maximize what guys do best. And because, N'Kobe's not the best in coverage, and you've probably seen him in space, but if you put him in, he's a smart player. If you put him in the right spots, don't ask him to do too much. Don't hook him up in wheel routes and man-to-man coverage. And that's what Big does really, really well. So it's the whole goal of coaching, maximize strengths, minimize deficiencies, and Big is turning him into a heck of a player.
Yeah, that's they're really playing good football, and
And where are my Devin White people?
Yeah, they're still in here. They might not come out and say they are, but they're still in here. They're still watching all the great Devin White. Dabney, where are you, Dabney? I know you love Devin White, Dominique. I appreciate you being here. John, that's the one thing, and I think this is pretty obvious. You talk about it all the time, and I think you've educated the people very well on everybody that's a linebacker in the NFL is not that good in coverage.
No,
but if you are
that's
going
true.
to attack the Eagles defense, the way to do it is to attack them, the linebackers in coverage. And that's where a team like Minnesota is an interesting matchup because they have so many good skill position players with Addison, Jones, and Jefferson that maybe they can create a matchup for TJ Hawkinson on the linebackers. That's probably the one area I would say I would try and attack that Eagles defense. But I guess you could say that for every team in the league, basically.
Yeah, and that's where, Vic comes in a little bit, and to be able to, if that were the game, he'll come up with a plan. It's more difficult, certainly, than what you saw this week, where the tight end was the best skill position player. But they're going to have to beat some, but whether it's Green Bay, Detroit, I mean, for all the talk about Montgomery hurts, but they still have Gibbs. You just don't have the nice compliment any longer. But they're going to face a good offense at some point, and it's going to be an interesting matchup. And I like Vic, man. He's gonna maximize what he has, and that's the goal.
I mean, John, this 10-game win streak, the most points this defense has given up was 23 to the freaking Jaguars.
Yeah. And by the way, they're down to a 17.7% blitz rate.
Wow. That's because Vic's got good players. That's why he's down in blitz. Doesn't need a blitz.
Yeah. Yep.
Would you say the linebackers are the biggest part of the defense having such a big turnaround?
Yes. From a standpoint of expectations, we knew they had talented people up front.
Right. But I mean, going from 31 to 1 is not easy. Like, is the linebacker the biggest piece of that level?
Yeah, I think, it was pretty much a consensus that whether it was going to be Devin White, N'Kobe Dean, or Devin White and Zach Bond early, or N'Kobe Dean and Zach Bond, what it ended up, that was not a good linebacker room. And it's turned out to be the best linebacker room in the NFL. The best. That is not hyperbole. I mean, those two guys, that's what you're talking about. Nobody plays three linebackers anymore. Those two guys have been the best tandem in the NFL. And I don't know anybody who saw that coming.
Very impressive for the Eagles defense. Quinyon Mitchell, John, has moved into the favorite now for Rookie of the Year or Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't get my hopes up for the award people simply because
I think
it's
he's
a
going to get it.
it's a stats-based award, and unless he gets a couple interceptions, I believe he belongs in the conversation. But it's easy to point to Jared Verse and say, "Oh, he's got this many sacks,"
Yeah,
and
but the
that's what.
Eagles defense has become the Eagles are, John, people in the media love the Eagles because you either shit on them and you get a huge reaction or you praise them and you get a huge reaction because that's Philly. Philly loves that. So the Eagles defense has been so good that I think these guys are kind of becoming a little bit of a
I hope
national
so.
media darling. And I think that's why Quinyon's getting pushed up the board a little bit. The Rams, not so much, and
Well,
the
they
Eagles
also
are.
remember what betting lines are. They're trying to take advantage of people
Well,
as
that's true.
well. Um, I just know the way these guys vote, and they're going to vote for stats. And if somebody wins Defensive Player of the Year with no interceptions playing cornerback, color me surprised. I mean, and I wish voters were more educated to go peel back the onion and look at how well Quinyon has played. But they're just going to default to sacks. It's easy for them. Oh, well, Verse has got, I don't even know how many sacks he has. He's got 8 sacks. I'm just making that number up. And Quinyon doesn't have any interceptions as a cornerback, and you're going to vote for Quinyon Mitchell. I hope, like I said, I hope people are more educated. But yeah, I think they're trying to take people's money.
Yeah, you might be right. I hope not, because I think Quinyon's what a great player though he's been for this team, and Cooper DeJean right there with him. So great
And
stuff from
that's
this
the second thing. There's a lot of people, including me, who think Cooper's even better as a rookie. And they're both, by the way, whether you want to give it to Jared Verse or not, to me it should be Jared Verse, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, or Jared Verse, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell. Because Cooper DeJean doesn't get nearly enough credit as he should get.
Well, he came in later in the year, and I think that maybe started a little bit later in the year, so maybe that had some impact on it. But Birds are 10-0 since he's been starting, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you're 12-2, there's all those stats, and look, Cooper's been unbelievable, and a certain someone in the Eagles locker room told me, whispered to me, he's the best of the two corners, but they're both great. I always go Cashman in Minnesota because he's been like they're undefeated with Blake Cashman. It's like all those things are like, yeah, but they're really good. They win every game. The Eagles are really good. They win every game. So I'm not going to tie it to Cooper, but he's played really, really well.
Good stuff there. We'll get to a couple more super chats. We'll hit our first break, and then we'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about the Eagles team. Jake Elliott, we'll talk some conversation. I'll take some super chats as well. And then in hour number 2, we'll talk to Chris Franklin here on Birds 365. Abe checks in. He says, Q should win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Who are the people better than Q at corner this season versus Jared Verse being compared to other edge rushers? Q is by far better than most. That's an interesting comp. Q is a bona fide corner in the league, at least this year. Jared Verse is a good rookie, but is he a great edge rusher in the league? It's a fair point.
Yeah, I'm just telling you how they're going to vote.
Right. Statistic based.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be in the conversation. I'm just, if they do, I will applaud them. You can make a strong argument that he should be Defensive Rookie of the Year. But unless he comes up with a couple, and all he has to do is get a couple interceptions, and then I'm like, he'll probably win it because he's on the better team. Then they'll default to that. They'll say, well, he's on the better defense, the better team, but yeah, I mean, Verse has got however many sacks, and early on, Braden Fisk was up there for the same team as well. because he's had a big year. So he's probably 4th on the list. So yeah, I mean,
I think he could get a boost too because the Eagles' defense is number one. Like people might look at that also and give him a little bit of a nod. Maybe
yeah,
not.
that's why I said better
Yeah.
team, better defense.
Right.
But unless those numbers come, remember, you got a bunch of guys who aren't watching the Eagles every day. It's a bunch of national guys. And they're going to look at the numbers and say, oh, well, Versus got this. And that's that the history of the voting goes that way. It would go against the history of the voting.
I'm with you, Joe Whip. The only award that really matters is the Lombardi.
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't, and that's the second part. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
I get it. For Quignon, it would be. I'm not saying he shouldn't.
Yeah, and there's like contractual. Isn't there contractual stuff too?
Sometimes, not. There's no.
Not rookie of the year.
No.
You're too early
Yeah.
for your contract. Eduardo checks in, John. He says the real question for Johnny Mac: who is your favorite WWE diva of all time? Wow.
Oh boy. Well, that's like different categories. Working wise, it would be Asuka, for those who know wrestling, and that in ring. The biggest star I would say would be Trish Stratus.
She's popular, isn't she?
Or Becky Lynch. Yeah, Trish is very.
She's the blonde. She's the famous one. Yeah.
And then, but I'm old school, so I go Sherry Martel. I love Sherry Martel. It's a great worker back in the day and manager of Randy Savage, most notably. Also, Shawn Michaels. She was great. And then if you're talking attractiveness,
that's a different combo, right?
Yeah, that's a different combo. That's probably Tori Wilson in her prime.
Tori Wilson. I guess I'll have to look her up. Good stuff.
Date A-Rod. You should know her.
I might know her. What's her name? Tori Wilson?
Tori Wilson.
Tori Wilson.
Torrie.
Johnny Mac's got a specific eye I can see. Prince says, I will take shutting down a side over picks, to be honest.
Yeah, don't get me started with that conversation. Please. Even don't listen to me. Even Vic Fangio said it. This is a zone-based team. Last week, this is a zone-based team. They don't play press coverage. So again, your the definition in the NFL, I don't care what your definition is, but the definition in the NFL of lockdown corner is a press corner that takes away one side of the field. The Eagles don't play defense that way. They don't play that way. It's not Quignon's fault. And by the way, I was talking to Slay about this earlier this week, and I say this, and please listen to this, because Slay confirmed this for me. It is much harder for a rookie cornerback to play in the style of defense the Eagles play than it is to just point at somebody and say, go cover that guy. That's easy for young corners. Or easier.
It's easy schematically, but that doesn't mean it's easier on the field of play.
Easier schematically. It's much more difficult to play in a complicated defense where you're playing a lot of match zone coverage and you got to pass people off all the time. It is much harder to do. And Slay confirmed. Slay told me, in fact, Slay told me exactly, if you can play off man, I can teach you quickly. If you can't, if you're just a press guy, I can't teach you to play off man. What Quignon does is much more difficult. But he is not shutting down one side of the field. And he's not shutting down one side of the field because it's not an insult. That's not the way the Eagles play defense. And again, if you don't want to believe me, just go find Vic Fangio's transcript last week when somebody asked him, it seems like teams don't target him very much. Is that surprising to you? And Vic said, a lot of times it's due to the coverage we're playing. Where the quarterback is Reed's taking him other places. But Quinyon has been playing very well from day one. I'm very, very pleased with him. The Eagles don't play press coverage. They're a zone team, zone-heavy team. He's doing a phenomenal job. It is more difficult, confirmed by Darius Slay. He's an off-man corner. He is not Jalen Ramsey.
John, please explain this to me. And I'm not saying this in a combative way. I'm actually looking for an explanation from you on it. So if you go on PFF and you look at the coverage grades, okay, and I did 50% of the top 621 snaps. So you have to play a significant amount to be graded in this. The top 3 corners in coverage, Cooper DeJean is number 1, and Quinyon Mitchell is number 3. Denzel Ward is number 2. Both of them are graded out extremely high. Now, you're right, obviously, they're playing a lot of zone, but how does that factor in? Like, how is he graded so high in coverage? I guess, are you factoring in zone coverage there?
It's a very flawed metric. It's who's closest. So I mean, that's the best you can do. So, and that's why people like Vic will shit on things like that. Like, you don't know what we're doing. You don't know the coverage. You don't know what's being asked, what's accomplished. Now, people want, advanced stats, and they want that kind of stuff. So it's basically, all right, who's closest? He's in coverage. And sometimes, not sometimes, often that's a very flawed way of doing it, but there's no other way to do it. And that's why you see difference. You have all these different things. PFF, True Media, Tony Khan's company. We're going full wrestling today.
Yeah.
Next Gen Stats. You'll see different. You don't see the same numbers because it's not concrete. And people are just
right
doing the best they can. And it gives you a good indication of how effective Quinyon has been. And the Eagles defense as a whole has been. But the better indication is the overall grade, because then they're taking into the concept of, all right, they understand when they see quarters coverage, or they see cover 3 or cover 9, whatever Vic wants to call it. They understand more, not perfectly, but more of what's trying to be accomplished on a specific play. And he's got a very good grade, especially for a rookie. I don't know what his grade is. I can look it up compared to the rest of the league, but he's not, top 5. I'm sure he's, the entire Eagles defense has all of a sudden, started to emerge because they're playing so well as a unit. But, where is he? He's Cooper's number 4. He's number 16, which is tremendous, by the way. Tremendous 16. Unbelievable for a rookie. Unbelievable. But that's the better number to focus on, because they're grading him out not only against peers, but they're grading him out, based on the coverage and things like that. So Pat Surtain, typically, he's number 1. McDuffie, Cooper's been phenomenal. Marlon Humphrey.
Cooper at number 4 is crazy, man. Cooper is good.
And they should, by the way, they should block out slot corners. They don't, but because it is a different position, as Vic will tell you. So they both been great.
The other guy that got drafted right next to Quinyon, who obviously was the Eagles had the choice between, was Terrion Arnold, the guy with the Detroit Lions. He's playing one of the highest rates of man coverage
Yes.
in the NFL. He's
Yes.
basically in man almost every play, which I guess is a different skill set, but Quignon's been better at what he's been asked to do than what
Yes.
Arnold has been what he's
Oh,
asked
by
to do. So what do
far.
you value more? Like, I get they're different. I'm not
Wow.
saying that, but
I'd
rather have Quignon being amazing at what he's doing than having Arnold, who's getting there. He's good at what he's doing, but he's not top in the league.
Well, this is part of the thing that's frustrating. It's a package deal. Like Quinyon Mitchell's a better fit for what the Eagles do. Terrion Arnold's probably a better fit for what the Lions do.
Yeah, Arnold might hate this defense just like Ramsey did.
Exactly. So, for what how the Eagles play defense, they made a great decision. But if you switch them, if you want to Freaky Friday them, and you're putting Quignon in Aaron Glenn's defense, and you're putting Terrion Arnold into Vic Fangio's defense, they're probably both playing worse than what they're playing in their current defenses.
Right.
And Arnold's had a lot of trouble because he's very handsy, a lot of PIs. But you can see him down the road. If he, you never know the mental makeup of players. If he can handle it and he starts to figure it out, and you could see him being a really good player down the road. But again, the NFL's not a vacuum. That's the most frustrating part for me as we hit 50,000. Look, the guy, I don't know how many times I've done it. The Eagles don't play a lot of press coverage. Does anybody really believe the Eagles play press coverage?
No, they don't. It's very obvious that they don't play press coverage.
So why are people, he locks down one side? How do you lock down one side of the field if you're in zone coverage?
Well, this
What
is
does
what
that
people
even
say.
mean?
I don't. I'm not arguing with you, but the people, for the sake of the conversation, the people want to know. If you lock down your side of the field, you're still locked down. Badlands says zone or not. I mean, there's a lot of those comments.
Well, there's as the NFL describes a lockdown corner, that's not their description.
I agree. Yeah, you can't be a lockdown corner if you're playing zone, because that's by default not what you're asked to do.
Yeah. So I'm using the NFL how they describe players. And if you're lockdown, you have to be a press corner, number one. You have to be a guy that travels, number two. The Eagles don't travel. Slay was a lockdown corner earlier in his career, complete lockdown corner. I don't know what to tell you. Can't be in this defense.
Listen, I'll take Quignon. Whatever the fucking definitions are, I don't really give a shit. Quignon Mitchell.
Everybody should take Quignon for this defense. What I'm trying to explain, like I always say, I think we have the most educated fan base. I'm trying to educate. If you're playing zone coverage, it's not a vacuum. If he goes to a defense where he plays man, maybe he excels. Maybe he can excel. He played off man in Toledo. The reason they chose Quignon Mitchell, a lot of people said, well, you got to take Arnold. He played at Alabama, and Mitchell played at Toledo. They wanted an off-band corner because they knew Vic Fangio was going to be their deep. That's what you do.
Right.
They're trying to find a fit for them, not a fit for Aaron Glenn.
It's true. Abe says, don't need to travel when the scheme in secondary is so good.
Yes. Yes, that's not Vic's belief. And again, I had that discussion with Jim Schwartz. People don't understand when you travel somebody. So Slay would be a good example early in his career because he could do it. That means other people have to move, and lesser players have to move, and they might be less comfortable doing things. So you have to be very, very careful with that. And you only do it, even the big time corners, lockdown corners, true lockdown corners by the NFL's definition. I'm trying to be as contextually as I can. Even that they don't do it a lot because they only do it against the really, really top tier receivers. because it affects everybody. It impacts everybody else in the secondary as well.
Oh, come on, Darker. He says, J-Mac, he's played man several times and he's been locked down. Stop
Jesus
the hate.
Christ.
Christopher, that's not hate, dude. Come on, brother. That's
Oh
not
my
hate. Johnny Mac's
Lord.
not hating.
Oh my Lord. Go find the press coverage snaps. Am I saying that this is another thing, people? Has he never played Of course he's played press coverage. I'm saying by a percentage, the Eagles play very little press coverage compared to most teams. I don't know what to say to these people at times. I mean, I can
What are
lie
they
to
playing?
you.
Roughly what? What would you say percentage-wise? Roughly 15, 20% press?
Yeah, way under 20%. And I will find that number out. I will email True Media. Way under 20%. Way under 20%.
I love it. The dedication. John will send an email to True
Way,
Media.
way under 20%.
And it's not hate. Come on, Christopher. You're smarter than that. Birds 365. We just told you at the start of the show we have the smartest fan base. Come on, Christopher.
Yeah, man. Come on.
You're smarter than that. You're smarter than that. All right. I appreciate everybody checking in. Don't forget to hit that like button this morning, everybody. 50,000 subscribers we hit yesterday. So big thanks to all of our great people here on the show. And John, you know, you want to hear an interesting stat. 40% of our viewers on Birds 365 are not subscribed. So if you're watching and you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Means a lot to us, so we appreciate that. We hit 50K yesterday, which was a big metric for us. Johnny Mac, one more thing I want to talk about before we get to our break, and we'll get to Chris Franklin. Jake Elliott got going a little bit. He had a 48-yarder in the game, which was taken off the board because of a penalty. But he hit on everything. You feeling a little bit better about Jake Elliott and getting his confidence back going into these last 3 games of the year?
Yeah, I mean, you need it. They're probably going to need a big kick at some standpoint. It's good to get him. One of the things about Jake is you wonder, they took kickoffs away from him. He barely kicks, and do you get a feel for it? They're so aggressive typically on 4th downs. And maybe that affected him a little bit, but I know he's not going to make that excuse, but until he makes a 50-yarder. He's been very good under 50. I mean, that hasn't changed. It's only been plus 50 where he hasn't made a kick this year.
Yeah.
In a year where everybody's
he's got to get that one down though.
Yeah. But under 50, he's been very good for that never went away. So I don't think any questions were answered until he bangs one through from 50 plus. Then I will feel more comfortable. But yeah, under 50's never really been an issue. So he's not having a great year, and sometimes that's the way it goes with kickers. And hopefully it doesn't hurt you at a big time.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. There's a lot of kicker problems, John, in the league. Even the Lions kicker, who's been one of the better ones in the league, Bates, he missed a big kick in their game on Sunday. So all the kicker woes, John. There's some kickers playing good, but there seems to be a lot of kicker woes in the NFL this season.
Well, not early. Early, it looked like the best season ever. But Michael Clay deserves credit. He said, wait till the weather turns.
Yeah, he did.
Because they were banging through 50s across the league like it was nobody's business. And all of a sudden it stopped for the most part. Domes help. You saw last night Reichert hit a 52-yarder, so it's much easier to kick in domes, obviously. But when you're in the Northeast and that wind is blowing, Nick made a big deal about that in the Carolina game. The wind, it was windier than you thought. Trying to make excuses for Jake. But yeah, it does obviously complicate things, especially in the Northeast. And it's going to be very cold in Washington. At least it was. I don't know if the forecast has changed, but it was like last time I looked, it was going to be 27 as the high. So that's not a big kicking. That's not a good kicking atmosphere.
No, it's not.
So the weather has a lot to do with it.
You have any thoughts on that game? Fine, we're not going to dive into it just yet. Obviously, we got a full week to dive into that thing, but
High
Commanders.
27, low 18.
That's going to be a cold one.
That's
going to be a good one, Johnny Mac.
Yeah.
Get your winter coat out, my friend.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's going to make Jaden Daniels happy. I think that might be an advantage for the Eagles.
Eagles got a lot of warm weather players too. Though now they've obviously become more accustomed to it by playing in Philly. But Jalen Hurts grew up in Houston, and then he played at Alabama and Oklahoma.
Devontae does not like.
Devontae doesn't like. He's from Louisiana. He doesn't like. He doesn't like the cold weather.
He does not like the cold weather.
His mic'd up sessions are pretty hilarious when there's cold weather out. And he's get me the beanie, or whatever he calls it. Pretty good stuff there. So we'll get to our commercial break. We got Chris Franklin coming up. Looking forward to talking to Chris today. Normally we get him on post game on Monday, but we moved him to Tuesday this week. Chris had some.
Hey, by the way, before I get back to our zone conversation, I'll give a plug to the Honest NFL because they always do. Does a great job.
Yeah, he's really. I've been following him since you've been talking about him.
Yeah,
he's really good.
He breaks down every game. You can see every coverage. Against Washington. Because I was thinking about Washington, they played the first 8 drives and didn't play one snap of press coverage, not one snap till they got the lead. Not one snap.
Isn't that also is a nod though to how good your defense is playing, right? Because you don't need to switch anything up to create stops. So the defense is playing really good in their base coverage.
Well, Vic is going to do it. That's how Vic plays. He plays a ton of zone coverage.
Yeah, but I mean, if an offense comes out and starts shredding you, you're going to switch things up.
I guess not from that. No, that's how he plays.
I guess that logic doesn't work for.
But no, if you get him 3rd and 13, that's where he's going to blitz a little bit more. But again, as you see those blitz rates go down, typically Vic's at 22-23%. That's been his history. Blitz rates pretty consistently. He's been doing this a long time. He's down to 17.7%. That's a clear indication of just how little he's playing press coverage. Now, Washington, because of the young quarterback, it was a little bit different, but that was just striking. They didn't play one snap of man coverage until they took the lead in that game. You remember Washington was leading for most of that game. So, but at the Honest NFL charts, I don't know if he does every game, but he's charted a bunch of games. And it's all there for you to see. Used to be a coach.
Yeah. I'm still learning some of the terminologies. He's speaking in.
He knows exactly what's going on, and everybody can go see it for themselves if they don't want to believe it. At the Honest NFL.
Good stuff there. Got a super chat we'll get to. John, the people are looking for the great Ed Kratz. We're hoping to get Ed back up.
Tentative for Friday. Yeah.
Yeah. Tentative. I told him that our schedules haven't aligned. Ed was a world traveler for a couple of weeks, and Ed is also he's a substitute teacher, right, for a school?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's been
wrestling coach / substitute teacher.
Is he a wrestling coach?
Oh yeah.
That's wrestling.
Not pro wrestling.
No, yeah, high school wrestling, right?
When I bring out the steel chair, help your kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, wrestling is a big high school wrestling is a huge sport in Pennsylvania. We actually just launched on JAKIB. Not on this JAKIB Sports, but a separate division of JAKIB. We launched the high school wrestling show, which is pretty cool.
And
Anthony Amato.
Kratz on that too.
Yeah, we should. We really should. Anthony Amato says, first time, long time. Thanks, gents, for the takes and passion. Sherry and Tori. Big Mac nailed it. He wishes to. I do as well. I'm not sure what he's talking about there, but I appreciate the super chat and the nice words, Anthony.
Yeah, not sure. I'm lost on that one, Anthony.
Thanks for the take and passion. I think that's pretty clear. Yeah. Sherry and Tori, Big Mac nailed it.
Oh, all right. We're back on WWE Divas. Yeah, Sherry Martel, Tori Wilson.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. He wishes to. I think I know what he means by that now, too. Okay. I have deciphered the whole super chat now. Thank you, Anthony Amato. We appreciate that, bro. That's really cool of you. Thanks to everybody.
Did you look up Tori Wilson yet?
I got her pulled up. I'm gonna check. I'll check her out on the break a little bit. I see her. J Max got a type. I see it. I
No,
see it.
not necessarily.
No. All right. You're
No.
fluid. Fluid.
No.
You're,
And you know, Tori, this is prime Tori Wilson. I remember that. Prime time. Prime of her life, Tori Wilson.
Yeah, Super Chat does have people say this. Super Chat. I don't know why they autocorrect everybody. Super Chat. Just let the people say what they want for the money they spend. Appreciate everybody. 50K, 50,000 subscribers yesterday. I know I've said it on the show today, but that is a moment where I stop and I think and I say, wow, thank you to everybody. What we're building, that people come here, they listen, they watch, they comment, they subscribe, and they interact with us. It's really cool. And it's a sign that what we're doing is working, and your guys' support means a lot to us. A big thanks to you guys. We would not be on this show right now. This thing would not be live if it wasn't for you guys. So big thanks to all of you guys for that support. Flexen checked in. Tiffany Stratton, better than Tori. J-Mac, Flexen says.
Well, Tiffany's all, yeah. Right now, yeah, Tiffany's off the charts. You should check Tiffany out. Tiffany is exactly what WWE looks for. Exactly. Like, you couldn't create a WWE wrestler. They don't call them divas anymore. In a lab better than Tiffany Stratton.
Anthony checks in. Anthony, you might get grilled by John McMullen here, and I'm not going to feel bad for you if you do, okay? He says, Honest NFL was the guy that criticized people for assuming because someone is open, Jalen doesn't mean the ball is supposed to go there based on what he's taught in the rules, so don't overreact.
I don't know. I don't know what he's
Anthony,
trying to
come
say.
on, dude. Just because that is as true as it gets. Just because somebody is running open on the screen for you does not mean that that's the progression.
The guy worked in the league. The guy was a coach for your favorite team. The guy knows Vic Fangio's defense better than anybody I know. I mean, I can't force you to go to people who know what they know, but he knows what he's talking about. You know, I'm one of the frustrating things, and I thank everybody for listening, is like, do you want to be told the truth or not? I say it all the time. Do you want to be lied to just to validate, make you feel
There's
better?
plenty of other people that can lie to them. We don't need to do that.
I don't understand it. We're just telling you what's going on. They play a lot of zone coverage. You can go anywhere you want. If anybody tells you differently, they're lying to you.
He clarifies. He says, I'm saying what he said is true. All right, Anthony. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you, man. Brian says, Prime Tory, J-Mac, a major gooner. JBL, best wrestler to ever live.
Oh, boy, that's another conversation. JBL's great. Tremendous.
You got to respect Pumper's versatility here, Johnny Mac.
Yeah,
he comes from the top rope.
I know JBL. JBL's friends with Billy Godfather. Good friends. Tremendous on the mic, but I would not call him the best wrestler of all time.
Brian, pretty cool, man. Appreciate
that
your
is Stone Cold Steve Austin, if anybody's asking for.
Is that what yours it would be? Stone Cold?
Well, I'm just going on performance in the ring, great work rate, the largest box office draw in history. They break his records now because of inflation and higher ticket prices. But as far as drawing people and putting asses in the seats, which is the goal, nobody's ever done it better.
Exactly. All right, a couple more. The super chats coming in. I got to get to these, and we'll get to our break. John. People are now speculating, John. And Eduardo says Johnny Mac's type is blonde and tickle bitties. Oh gosh.
No,
we are off the rails on a Tuesday edition.
As a matter of fact, typically I actually default to darker hair. But I like Tori.
Chris Franklin just checked in. He's like, what the fuck?
Chris will know. No, Chris loves wrestling. He will know. We bring him up real quick. We got to Chris Franklin.
I'll bring him up real quick. I got to do my live read, but I'll bring him up. What up, Chris? How you doing, brother?
Good yourself. What, wrestling?
You see that super chat on the screen? They're speculating on John's type of wrestler.
We're debating the best lady, the divas. They're not called divas anymore. And I said my favorite is just from pure aesthetic standpoint, is
Right.
Tori Wilson in her prime. And then assuming I have a type, but your favorites WWE women's wrestler / diva. And somebody brought up Tiffany Stratton, who is that will validate my claim type, but it's like they made her in the lab, Chris Franklin. I don't know if you're watching recently or you know who Tiffany Stratton is, but Google
Not, not. I will, but I'll say, you know, who was underrated and I thought was extremely good. AJ Lee. I thought she
Yeah,
was
AJ was
really, really
great.
good.
Yeah, CM
Really, really
Punk's
good.
wife. Yeah.
Yeah, she was really good. But yeah, I haven't watched the new women's wrestling division yet. But I know it's a lot better. It's a lot more focus on it. But I haven't watched it in a long time. Like the new stuff for a
Well,
while.
go
And they said it's
when you
good.
were watching. Give me your favorite diva.
Mickey James was good. Mickey James was
Mickey
up
was
there.
great. Yeah,
Mickey was good. Trish Stratus was good. Yeah,
mentioned Trish, by the way.
yeah, she was good. Like those were the two I really. Those were the two I really liked.
Those are two
Until
good
that was it.
choices. Those
Everybody
are
likes
two
this chick. Some black guys, some black ninja checks in. Johnny Mac, don't forget about Rhea
good.
Ripley.
Rhea's tremendous, but
Oh,
you have
trying
to. Yeah, you talk about having a type. If you like Rhea, you have a type because she is very unique, and she will. I'm fearful of girls who
I
can
can
kick
say
the
that she's
shit out
not
of me.
my type, but
Yeah.
She's a new
I
China.
can say that emphatically, actually. So I don't. CZ, you guys are doing all wrong. Bastion Booger is the greatest. LMA.
Bastion Booger.
You're out of my league at this point. I don't
Yeah.
know who the heck we're talking
Mae
That
about.
was
Young.
in the gimmick era of WWE.
I was at Mae Young. The fact that she took some of those bumps even at her age.
She took a
This
table
NFL.
bump from Bubba Ray at like 83. 83 years old or something of that nature.
Yeah,
Oh
good
my
stuff.
God.
Let me do a quick live read, everybody, and we'll be right back in about 35 seconds with Chris Franklin, and we will talk some Philadelphia Eagles here on the show. Let me tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. Go check them out, betus.com.pa. Use the promo code YouTube150, and you get 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and you get 125% on your second and third deposit. So go check them out right now. They have the fastest payouts in the industry, 24/7 customer support, and we'll even give you your own custom account manager. So big thanks to BetUS for sponsoring the show today. Now let's get to our main man, Chris Franklin, to talk about some Philadelphia Eagles here on Birds 365. Appreciate everybody checking in. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. Chris, Birds win a big game versus Steelers, my man. 10 straight. They're 12-2. They answered some questions in the passing game. What were your first takeaways from what the Eagles were able to do to the Steelers on Sunday?
Well, I was shocked. First off, I know I'm gonna start with the Captain Obvious one. I was surprised at the differential. I thought the Steelers, even though without George Pickens, I thought the Steelers would be a lot better, like little bit better offensively. And what the Eagles defense really made things tough for him. Russell Wilson, I was shocked that. I'll start with the biggest one, and also then I'll start with the biggest story that we were all watching last year was AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts he looked decisive when he saw the guy was getting open. He threw it. He wasn't trigger shy at all, and he still made good decisions. And that's the Jalen Hurts that everybody knows he's capable of being, and helping his team make a run. And if you get that type of performance. He also for 300 yards. But you don't in this offense. You don't have to have him for 300 yards. You just need him to continue to throw at the right spots, get the ball out at the right time, and let these guys get the yak after the catch. This offense runs the way it did. It is a Super Bowl caliber offense. It really is. And finally, on the switching the other side of the ball, getting back to the defense, I like the way. I'll tell you this: Nolan Smith is really starting to turn into a guy that you can really rely on, and he's really making an impact. And to a point now, when Bryce Huff comes back of IR, I don't know if there's a spot you can really go. Jalen Hunt's starting to contribute sometimes a little bit more. You look at Josh Sweat the way he's playing. Where's the spot? Where's the spot to
I
play? Like
think there is
sad.
a spot, but I don't think he's going to usurp Nolan Smith. But I think they could use that fourth edge rusher. just to take. I'm talking like 10.
Like taking things off. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a spot for him, but it's not going to be. He's not going to be taking Nolan Smith off the field. Maybe a little Jalik's on. Jalik's been fine, but I don't think it's been spectacular. I don't think he's overwhelmed, but I don't think it's awesome. So I think they could use Bryce Huff, at least in the rotation. I think it would help.
Oh, I think you're at the point now where you get that helmet tap. Somebody goes like, "I need a breather." You put him in it.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
Charles Harris is. We haven't
Chuck
really
Harris
now.
now. Yeah. Is Chuck still here? I think he is. Yeah. But it helps. It also helps, Chris, when you play 43 snaps or whatever they played. Like, Nolan played essentially the entire game. If they ever get, and we're running out of time, but if they ever get to an offense that can do some things and you're on the field for 60, 65 plays, it doesn't even have to be an 80 play game where your team's really cooking on offense. I think you're going to need that fourth guy. I don't think you can. I don't think Nolan is Max Crosby who can play forever.
No.
And even Max Crosby's hurt now, but he has been good. That was his best game as a pro, I think, against the Steelers. Which, speaking of, in a larger picture, is that the Eagles' best performance of the year?
Oh, I never say so, because even though the passing game wasn't that sharp against the Ravens, I just look at the opponent itself and the fact that they were on the road and the way they played down there. I thought that to me, that was the best win going into this game. But the way, I'd have to say, given it was Russell Wilson, it wasn't Russell Wilson of the mid 2010s at all. It still was. I think that was very, very good the way they shut them down. And I think so. I think it is. Yeah, from top to bottom, that was probably the closest they've come to a perfect game, I think, so far this year. I think the special teams, besides the Regine fumble, I think everything else turned into their way. So that was probably the most complete game that they played for sure. And you need this to stack up. As good as it happened at this right time, and the way the schedule works out, the way it's breaking late with the other Commanders are tough, but you get the Cowboys and the Giants to work on some things and try to get some more momentum and continue to play these games. You can get some confidence and really keep this thing rolling into the playoffs. So I think, I would say it is.
Chris, I want to ask Chris about the passing game real quick. How much did the performance on Sunday go in calming or quieting any concerns you had coming into the week on the passing game? It was obviously a big topic of discussion in the city, not just amongst the media, but amongst the team as well, amongst the players in the locker room. They had a big performance. Jalen Hurts, 25 of 32 for 290, high passer rating, couple touchdowns in the air. For me, it was a big step. At least you showed capability. You haven't showed consistency yet, but you certainly showed capability. How far did they go for you in quieting that concern for you?
That they're still, I think it did, especially that they're still capable of doing it. I think that was the biggest thing, because when you're in that rut those last 2 weeks, it looked bad.
Yeah.
You know what they say? It wasn't really clicking in that. And I was starting to get worried to the point where, okay, is it Jalen? Are they telling him, hold the ball, hold the ball, hold the ball? Okay, now like one read, and if you can't find it, just tell him to run. 2 reads and look at it run that way too. But that hesitation was gone, and I like what they did early. It was a very makeable passes, very early, very high percentage completion passes, routes. Let him get in that rhythm early on, and then the fact that he went to AJ Brown the second play of the game. Yeah, that was. I thought he was going to go to the first play of the game. So, like, okay, everybody, this is it. There's nothing going on. Here we go. And then the fact they went to the second play, I thought that was speed. But yeah, he looked a lot better. A lot better.
Why do you think, Nick, he did it again yesterday when he was asked about Jalen passer rating? I think Martin asked the question. I think it was about passer rating being over 100 a bunch of times, and he went on this long answer about how efficiently he's played quarterback, and it hasn't changed and nothing changed on, like, if you put Jalen Hurts against Carolina on the screen and then Jalen Hurts about Pittsburgh, that's a different guy. We all know what went on here over the past week. After the game, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith both confirmed there were difficult conversations had during the week. The week prior, after the Carolina game, everybody focused on A.J., but Devontae said the same thing. Jordan said the same thing. Jalen Hurts said the same thing, that the passing game has to improve. Why are we pretending the guy who showed up against Pittsburgh wasn't different than the guy in Carolina?
That's a good question. Like I'm trying to think around you. Like I don't know if it's maybe it's just a passing yard total. I know when you look at that one, but I think that's a good question. Like I haven't think about that, but I don't know if it's something where in terms of it was the stark contrast, like in the way that it just flowed. It just seemed like it flowed a lot more. Even though a lot of route concepts we've seen plenty of times. Back to week 3, week 4, stuff like that. A lot of these route concepts.
Oh, yeah, I
go
think
back
the
that way,
difference
too.
was the ball came out. That was the difference.
Yeah, he wasn't holding the ball as long, and it's also I think it was a conscious decision. Like I think after those conversations, it was one of the things I think they needed to do it in order to stop a snowball from happening. Because I think when it starts to get lodged in your mind, like, okay, we're not moving the ball, we can't pass the ball, we can't do anything else. You're at the point where you're starting to look like, okay, it starts to get seeped in your head, and you think like, oh yeah, we really can't pass this ball. So little tweaks were made. I think they sacrificed some more of the runs to even though the running game was good, I think it sacrificed more of the runs just to throw the ball a little bit more. I'm not saying tremendously, but probably about like 5 or 6 more times when situations where they typically would have ran the ball, they try to throw it. And I look at it in this way, I think that Kellen tried to, simplify things as well too. They went back to basics in a way. So I think when you look at the final total, 290 versus like 108, stuff like that, yeah, it's flowing. The ball's flowing a lot more. He looked more decisive and got the ball out quicker.
Chris, a lot of the words we use here on Birds 365 are the stars have to align. And I look around the NFC right now, and a couple weeks ago, I didn't think the Eagles were the best team in the NFC. But the Lions were up there. I thought the Vikings were up there. I still think the Vikings are there, but you look across and you see the injuries that the Lions are having. I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFL right now as it stands on December 17th.
I think I still can't believe I'm saying this. I think the Bills are still up there. I think
Bills
the
defense,
Bills are
though,
there.
man.
It's
Josh,
they give it
Josh
40.
Allen just won the MVP, Chris.
Yeah, that performance on the road, I thought that was tough. You know what? Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, they are, because when you look at the Lions now that their defense, they lost so many players that won't be available. You look at the Vikings. I know that they're 12-2, and I know they still find a way to keep winning. But the fact that still see Sam Darnold, even though I watched them last night,
Poor
no better.
Sam. Poor Sam.
That
was not a good game for Sam.
No, not at all.
But I'll tell you this. Here's the one thing I'll caution, because look, the Eagles against Pittsburgh, that was their best game of the season, I think. I think you're on board with that. A couple others, Baltimore, impressive performance, but I thought they were more well-rounded against Pittsburgh than any other game. So that was the Eagles at their top. You only have to go back 7 days and say the Eagles were a Xavier Leggett away from losing to the Carolina Panthers, potentially. 40 seconds left, desperation time, all that kind of stuff. I don't think Minnesota was impressive. I said it earlier in the show last night. But you look up at the end of the game and it's 27-6. I think that says something.
I think it says that the Bears coaching staff Bears need some coaching staff and need in a bad way. Even though every food store, they need to clean house and find a good offensive
I
coach.
agree with you. I agree with you, Chris. Chicago is a disaster, but Carolina is a disaster too.
I don't know. So I really, when you look at the way, and even though I'm saying it's all coming off from the Cowboys of all teams coming in boat race from their favorite for a time, the way they were playing, especially on their defense, on both sides of the ball, really. The way they were playing up to even through the Eagles game against the Chiefs, that 3-4 game stretch, things were starting to come around, and
Yeah,
Canales
but
has them playing well. So I can't just dismiss them completely in that one too, because
all right,
they're
I'm
going to
going
be
to
a good team
push
next year.
back again.
Yes,
You put that Chicago team next to that Carolina team. Chicago's got DJ Moore, they got Keenan Allen, they got Odunze, they got our old friend DeAndre Swift, they got Cole Kmet. Chicago's Jalen Johnson might be the best cornerback in professional football. They got talent on that Chicago team. You're right. Their coaching staff, their front office is a disaster, but they got way more talent than Carolina.
yeah,
Way more talent.
yeah, they have more talent, but if I'm putting them in the game, Carolina, the Chicago doesn't know how to use that talent right now. If you put them
Well,
on a
that's
neutral
fair.
field,
That's
yeah. If you put both teams right now on a neutral field, I'm taking on a neutral field next Sunday. I'm probably taking the Panthers because like Caleb Williams looks shook. He's getting
he's
hit too
terrible.
much.
He's terrible.
He's been hit too much. He's been seeing the ground. So yeah, and I know Chicago plays in the North, the tougher
He got
division.
hit so much yesterday, he laid down on the
Oh yeah,
bench.
Yeah,
that
does
bull.
Caleb Williams suck, or do the Bears suck with the worst offensive line I've ever
Well,
freaking seen?
It's a little bit both. He's a USC quarterback playing in the NFL. That's a big red flag to begin with. They're
yeah.
like, I wouldn't touch a USC quarterback and
So was
would touch
Sam Darnold. He's 12-2, Chris. Don't
mm,
sleep on that
that
Southern Cal.
the Minnesota Vikings are 12-2 because of their defense more in Justin Jefferson as opposed to Dan Darnold being.
All right. I partially because I predicted Sam would have a good season, because I like the setup he had last year being with Kyle Shanahan, and now Kevin O'Connell's obviously very good with quarterback. So I think he had a chance. Now I didn't expect that they'd be 12-2, but he's had a very good season. It might end up as Cinderella. We'll see how it shakes out. But I say today, the best team in the NFC after the Philadelphia Eagles is not Detroit. It's not even Minnesota. It's the third team in the NFC North, the Green Bay Packers.
You're saying best in the NFC or best in the North?
Best in the NFC outside the Eagles.
Oh, outside the Eagles.
So
Okay.
number 2. I think because it's all about attrition. It's all about when you play them. Like if Detroit's healthy, they're the best team in football. They're going to the Super Bowl. They're going to win the Super Bowl. I firmly believe that. They're not healthy. They lost everybody. Right now, I think the Green Bay Packers will be the toughest out for the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs. Am I nuts?
No, because I look at the depth they have at wide receiver. Like it's not like they have two, like they can beat you multiple ways. And the one thing that the one type of quarterback that really gives me concern is a guy who not only has an arm but is mobile, very mobile
Yeah.
against the defense, and that's Jordan Love. I would have said like because I had to really stop and think like, all right, is it the Packers or the Rams? And then you beat the Rams soundly in LA. You'd have them coming out. You'd be having them coming out here into this weather. But I'm like, yeah, Puka and Cup are good, but besides that, you be kind of like the running game. But I think you can handle them when you have all those aspects of the Green Bay's offense going. They can create some problems. So and yet LaFleur, I know, McVay's a really good coach too. I really respect LaFleur too. So I respect him more, even though everything he had to go with Aaron Rodgers. So yeah, I respect him a lot more in terms of that. But you're looking at the Packers; they're tough. I probably put them right now. I still think, yeah, if you're taking the lines out the equation, the Vikings, yeah, I probably say they are, and that comes in a very, it comes to now a very good, weird way of looking. You might see them depending on you might see them in the second round, divisional
Yeah.
round. So
Yeah.
they're going to be a tough team, and they're going to remember that opening game too, thinking like, what, maybe we should have won that game too. So they'll make for good TV. It'll make for a good game to watch. I don't know. The Eagles will say like, yeah, we're ready to play, but it's probably not the best opponent they want to face that early.
Yeah, that's the one team that scares me, at least a little bit, from the standpoint, because I do think like I said, Detroit is, they're just crippled. I mean, you lose a Lynn McNeil, you lose a Carlton Davis for the season, you lose David Montgomery for the season. They already lost Aiden Hutchinson, Malcolm Rodriguez, on and on and on. Marcus Davenport. It's unbelievable the attrition they've suffered, which tells you the stars have to align. And the Eagles are healthy for the most part. You got Jalen Hurts' shattered finger, but it's on his non-throwing hand, where Sam Darnold's got a bad pinky on his throwing hand. Stars are aligning for the Philadelphia Eagles. Chris Franklin. We know Nick Sirianni's not going to look ahead, but you can look ahead. Is this team ready for another Super Bowl run? Do we have to get hotels in New Orleans? Book the travel?
I think they are, because I think the way with everything shaking out this past weekend, I think they get the 1 seed. And that was the one thing I said. I still think, even with all that stuff, I still believe the Lions are going to get the NFC Championship game. It's just something about that team, Dick, and that was
even still going to score 40 points. So you got to outscore them, which you might be able to.
Yeah,
but
and you'll have them out that dome, out that fast track, and into the confines of the Lincoln Financial Field. So, yeah, I think they'll host that game and they'll win that game. You will see them in the Super Bowl. I believe that too. Even with the way the road is shaping up, I think you'll see the Vikings. As much as we were talking all that stuff, I think the Vikings will be the 5. I think the Eagles will play the Vikings. I think they can beat them. It'll be close because I think Brian Flores is just a heck of a defensive coordinator.
I love Brian Flores.
He's my biggest fear with the Vikings is Flores.
And the Vikings used to be, for me, like if this was last year, I really would have been worried, especially with the blitz. But the way that the Eagles the way Hurts is playing against the blitz, and it leaves some man opportunities out there one-on-one, I feel comfortable enough with them. So I think they meet them. I think they meet the Lions in the NFC Championship game, and then I think we're seeing the Eagles. I keep thinking the Bills. I really think the Bills, but something tells me about the Chiefs, and they may have a little help along
Carson
the way.
Wentz in the Super Bowl. How about that?
Oh no, please, no.
That would be the greatest story ever, Chris.
It'll be a great story, but it's just a whole. Well, like it's rehashing. I have PTSD from 2020. I don't want to go through that.
That would be the greatest story ever. I don't want Patrick Mahomes to be hurt, but I could see Kansas City getting through with Carson Wentz. That's how much respect I have for Andy Reid.
I don't. I think they'd be one and done. Because
if that happens, I'm going to start to believe. I'm going to start to believe the NFL.
Well, I think one of the underreported stories of this season is the AFC stinks. The NFC is so much better than the AFC.
And we thought it was going to be the opposite again the first season.
Yeah,
first season. I'm like, you look at all like even the South. You thought maybe the Colts were going to get, even though they lost.
Or Shane might get fired after.
And I thought the Colts would be better. I thought the Texans would be better. And you look at it, you look at so many teams like, they're deep. The AFC was deeper. Nah, it comes out the NFC is, and who would have thought that coming into the season? But and that's the gauntlet you have to go through. But whoever wins the NFC wins the Super Bowl, in my opinion. It really does. And it comes down to it. I think the Eagles will come out the NFC, so I think we'll see a parade down Broad Street.
Oh. Well, we're already making parade plans. All right,
I'm calling it. I'll stick with it. I think the Eagles will win this year.
Wow!
If they stay healthy, that's a big caveat. But
one game, Chris, versus the Steelers, where they can pass the ball effectively. One game is enough for you.
No, I'm told by the head coach they've been efficient passing the ball the whole time.
No, it's I think I look at the defense. I think the defense is really key in order to hold everybody else, because you see all these. You look at everybody else's defenses around the league. Nobody really stopped. This is really standing out. Like, wow, that's really fair. I mean, look at before we were talking about the
defense. Yeah, Chris, how much press coverage do the Eagles play on defense?
I don't have a percentage offhand, but it's I know Vic likes to have the corners looking back in the to the quarterback as part of their system.
It's also
It's looking at for. Oh,
I'm joking
man.
because I tell people this all the day that Vic plays all zone, for the most part, and they don't believe it. They don't believe it because they
Chris,
want
think about it, though.
Quinion to
You
be a
brought up the
lockdown
defense.
corner.
I mean, Chris brings up the defense. That looking at this 10-game win streak, Chris, the most points we've given up is 23 to the Jaguars, and you haven't played nobody. I mean, you're talking about one of the greatest players on earth and Lamar Jackson on the Ravens. You held them. You're talking about the Rams. You dropped 38 on the Bills. They put up 20 on us. I mean, the Steelers, Bengals 17. I mean, we thrive. We're holding every offense we go against, and sometimes you got to believe your eyeballs. This defense has proven they're good, and I know the Lions are scoring 34 a game at home. How many points are the Lions going to score on us? What's the realistic number? They're not going to score 15, but I don't think they're going to score 34. Is it 25?
I'd probably say at most 27. And the reason why I think they beat the Lions is because the Lions so banged up, they can put up 30, 35 burger on them. I think that it's that much that the Lions are so banged up. And they can't really stop anybody. Like you look in these big games that the Lions play, it's always been shootouts. And it's been a lot of them been at home too. So you get them away from those, you get them out in the open air. You force Goff to like either throw the ball deep in the air with this wind and this cold, what have you, whatever happens. That usually happens around that time at the lane. And you look and if you force them to run, I feel confident the Eagles to stop Jameer Gibbs on the run. The only thing you have to worry about is Ben Johnson trying to scheme up some Jameer Gibbs out in the flat or those wheel routes against a linebacker. And I think that's enough that you can do where maybe use Cooper Disease, like the quote by the spy on a running back, what have you. It's unconventional, but you can do stuff like that. And Vic will find a game plan. And sometimes unconventional, you're like, what is he doing over here? He's watching this one, and then it flows into, I don't know how he does it, but he comes up with some of his weird stuff. And that's why I really think this defense is going to be the one that, and who would have thought we'd talk about this in the NFL today? Like a defense really be carrying teams to the offense. The offense is really good. Don't get me wrong. The Eagles have the proportions to win the Super Bowl on the offense, but I think this defense is really an underrated story. Who would have thought this coming into the season?
Yeah, I really think that Montgomery injury hurts Detroit more than people realize because
It was all defense injuries. Now yesterday comes out Montgomery. I mean, they had some offensive line injuries, but nothing season ending.
Yeah. Part of Gibbs's success is just the nature of the Sonic and Knuckles, Thunder, and like whatever you want to call it. The sort of dichotomy of those two. You got the heavy hitter, body blow, and then all of a sudden you bring in this guy who's quick as a hiccup, and it's just such a great combination. And now you only got one part of it, so people can be hyper aware that it's Gibbs on the field. I think that's a bigger injury than people realize. I'm to the point where I've almost the injuries have gotten to the point where I'm almost writing off Detroit. You can't survive it. That's the NFL attrition. It's too much attrition, Chris Franklin. And the Eagles got 3 games to play. And so before we make that parade route, you got to cross your fingers and make sure that Saquon stays healthy. And he was a bit banged up in that game. Do you think it's time to manage, forget about records? Do you think it's time to manage to get to the playoffs? Or do you have to just keep going full bore as long as the number 1 seed's on the table?
I think I want to see what happens after this Commanders game, because that's the one, like, if it's right now with the total he had last week, I'm probably thinking he's not getting the record. And I'm thinking, okay, I'll still use him. Probably put him anywhere was like 16 to 20 rushes a game still, but I'm not going to like try to force it out there 25, 30, like 25, 30 touches overall. Like passing, I'm just going to say, you know what? And then I think you start to wane down. Like once you know like what seed you're going to be at, and even if you're the 1 seed, if you're in that final, if you go into the inner Giants and final game, you should beat them, because I think the Giants in the huddle go 1, 2, 3, Cabo 1, 2, 3 break. I think they'll be at that point. But I think like you send them in first, maybe you send them just a half as well too, and then you have the bye week if you get that 1 seed to really let them rest up and feel better. So I think the record. I'm not even worried about the record at this point. I think it's over with. Personally, I think this last game just threw a ball, but I look at it as a way that, yeah, I still think he'll be able to be okay and fine, but I'm not going to manage. I'll wean him down as the final game go on, as I'm going along to see how everything progresses. Next week you need him because there's still that outside chance. I don't think it happened, but you still need to clinch the division first and make it a formality.
Got to clinch the division. Washington's still hanging around. I think the Eagles will get it done. Washington, good team, not a great team. I think they'll keep it going. They'll probably run the table. Who would have thought 15 wins potentially on the docket for the Philadelphia Eagles? And Chris Franklin's got him in the Super Bowl. So get
your tickets, everybody. Chris Franklin.
Send the nice emails to Chris Franklin at C Franklin News. Make sure you follow Chris on the X platform. Read him at NJ.com. Does a tremendous job, and he just made your day happier because the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl.
Oh, here we go. Goodness. Well, yeah. Just looking at the layout of the land. Just see it there.
I agree with you. I think they're the best team.
You're not off. I mean, you're right.
I think they're the best team in the league right now as we sit here on the snapshot. But, things can change quickly in this league.
Stay healthy. You need you need the MVPs not to be Saquon or have you need the MVPs to be the medical staff to get these guys right.
Yeah. And that's another thing. You don't have to worry about the MVP. Josh Allen won that last week. He's going to win the MVP. I don't care about rushing records. Bigger goals to be had for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I agree with you from that perspective. Are you going to coordinator day today?
No, I'm going to be watching at home.
All right.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to seeing you. Now I'm disappointed.
Me too. Put it that way.
So you got everybody excited. You got me disappointed. All right, Chris.
Chris is booking his flight to New Orleans.
Yeah, the only ones
there today. Yeah. Chris, thank you for joining me. Make sure you guys follow Chris at C Franklin News, one of the best in the business. Chris, we'll talk to you again soon. All right, brother.
All right,
thanks, bud.
Have a good one now. Thank you.
All right, Chris Franklin joining the show here on Birds 365. Great stuff from Chris Franklin. John, we're now getting
Super Bowl.
We are getting there, John, aren't we? We are now at the point in the season when many are predicting and projecting the Philadelphia Eagles to make the Super Bowl. What a time, everybody. Brian Pumper, it's going to be a bad offseason for you, man, if this team can complete the task. I hate to break it to you, my friend. You might get a Jalen Hurts extension if they win this.
They look awfully good right now.
They do. If they can pass the ball like they did, John, versus Steelers every week, I think we're going to.
Well, there's no reason they shouldn't. That's why we were all.
I agree. But they didn't do it for a lot of the year, so I can't assume they're going to.
Yeah, I forgot to ask Chris about the empty sets, the empty formations. I think that was helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no reason that you shouldn't have a great passing game with the talent they have, and they finally figured it out. We'll see if they can keep it going.
Yep. Let's get to a couple more super chats here. Appreciate everybody for all the super chats today. And a big thanks again to everybody for 50,000 subscribers. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I want to get through the next 50K faster than we got through the first 50K. Maybe I'm thinking too big, but that's all right. 100K, we're coming for you. So hit that subscribe button if you enjoy the content. We have content all day here on JAKIB Sports, Monday through Friday. The best Eagles live streams. I got giveaways coming up. Here, I got another Saquon jersey here. This one's nice and stitched. I got the Salute to Service sweatshirts, Johnny Mac. I got 7 of them. I got Eagles hats over here. We're giving away. I got 4 of the beanies. I got hats everywhere. I mean, I got all sorts of stuff, John. We're giving away to the people. Well, I want to do it because, one, the people have been more supportive of the channel in the last couple of months than they have in our first 4 years. We've had major support. Our most comments, our most live chats, our most super chats, our most memberships. Everybody has been supporting the hell out of the channel. So I can't thank them enough, and they're the reason.
I can't wear Eagle stuff, so I can't get
not
any.
For Johnny Mac, don't worry. I ain't sending anything to Johnny Mac other than maybe a JAKIB Sports quarter zip that he requested a couple weeks ago that I got to fulfill him on, that I got to make good on. But maybe we'll get that for our trip to New Orleans. Holy shit. Let's get to a couple super chats. Appreciate everybody. And stay tuned for all the great giveaways that we're going to do. Yesterday, for the people who tune in daily, you get lucky. Yesterday, the people who were live on the show, on the afternoon show, John, when we eclipsed 50K, I made a whim decision with the Kango on. I broke out the Kango yesterday, Johnny Mac, and went Jalen Hurts Kango on everybody yesterday. And then I decided to give away a Jalen Hurts jersey on the spot. So it was a lot of fun to do that. Let's get to a couple super chats here. Brian says, the only team we don't want to see is Baker and the Bucks. The Jalenites better do some voodoo or put a hex on Todd Bowles, their hero's kryptonite. Wow.
What has been? Is AJ going to play or not? I'll agree with you. Again, attrition plays a part in it. They're well equipped to get their revenge on the Bucks if they're healthy. Just a better team.
Good stuff, Pumper. Appreciate you checking in. Caleb Brandon says, best in the NFC since week 5, coming from the man on the mountain.
Yeah, I mean, they're the best in the NFC right now. As I said, Detroit was the best team. And they got a bunch of injuries. That happens. But I would not want to play Detroit fully healthy. And I'm talking with Hutchinson and McNeil and Carlton Davis and David Montgomery. I would not have wanted to play that team at all. Anybody. I would not have wanted to play that team.
No doubt. Let's keep rolling here. D. Hughes checks in. Big thanks to everybody for all the support today, as always, man. You guys are the best. D. Hughes says, is there any team in the league that can beat the Eagles if we play our A game? I'm going to say no. Because our A game means the defense. I mean,
if A game versus A game, yes. Green Bay would be my first choice.
Over us or just as a best battle?
Best battle.
Okay.
There's a couple teams. Buffalo, Josh Allen, difference maker. Minnesota. There's a path. Would I pick the Eagles? Probably in each of those games, but there's a path. This is the NFL, guys. There's no. You should have learned throughout the season, even in games struggled that come down to one possession. You're a block kick away. You're a Xavier Leggett drop pass away. Very small margins. This is a one-score league, and if it's good versus good, and the football bounces the wrong way, yeah, I wouldn't get too cocky, but I would say the Eagles right now. The Eagles are the best team in the NFL, in my estimation.
I agree with that, and we'll see what they can do at the end of the year. Nina Alston's in here. She's dropping us clown emoji. I think Nina doesn't like Jacob, but Nina, I appreciate you for being here, and I love your post of your mother on X, who is the ultimate Eagle fan. So whether you love or hate Jacob, that's okay. I appreciate you for being here and watching right now. Lauren Crampsey says, one for everyone's point of view. Will the Eagles get to a place where key positions like QB get equity stakes in the franchise versus pure guaranteed cash with cap hits or even 70-30 cash equity type deals? Lauren, that's an interesting take, but I doubt the owners are ready to go there. I mean, I don't. Yeah, you're not going there.
This is a league.
You're right. The level of money these dudes are getting is getting to an insane level.
I mean, it's against the rules, but even if it wasn't, the injury rate in the NFL, could you imagine if you gave a quarterback an equity stake in the franchise so you're tied to him for his entire career and he tears his ACL and PCL? And no, it would never happen. Never going to happen. Just, yeah, the injury rate in this, sometimes you got to look at. People forget and they want to play revisionist history, but the Eagles thought Carson Wentz was going to be here for a decade. How quickly did that blow up? You gotta move quickly.
Do you think about how much change this team has had, John, in the last
this is a sport where you move quickly, and
It's crazy.
Nobody's getting equity.
Just the last 6 years, this team, how much turnover we've had, and I think we're in a better spot now than maybe we've I don't know, maybe ever been. I don't know. Our team is damn good right now. They're winning a lot of football. John, you called it a lot. The best run of Eagles football, definitely in modern history.
By far.
If they can cap it off with the Super Bowl, man, that would be a beautiful thing. Brian Pumper, one more here. He says, JBL over all of these bums. Triple H and The Undertaker not better than Big Papa Pump or Val Venus. Check out Jalen hype propaganda.
Val Venus. I think of that group. Val doesn't belong in the conversation. I like the character, but yeah, he doesn't belong in there with Triple H, Undertaker, even Scott Steiner, even JBL, your buddy. Yeah. Val doesn't belong in that group.
Who are the wrestlers you told me to look up earlier in the show? I know the one woman.
Tiffany Stratton.
Tiffany Stratton, is that the one? Let me type her in now.
Yeah, it's like
I know. Yeah, I know her.
It's like
she's more. Is she more recent?
Yeah, she's
I was going to say
she's current. Yeah, she's like built in a lab for exactly what they want.
All right, Johnny Mac, what's on the agenda today, brother, before we get out of here?
Vic Fangio, Kellen Moore finally gets a little bit of a break, gets to talk about a good passing game. He's still not going to say anything, but he gets to talk about it. Coordinator day for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Good stuff, Johnny Mac. I'll be looking forward to listening to the coordinators speak today. I'll be listening for your questions. Great stuff today, John, educating the great people, and a massive day on JAKIB as we hit 50K yesterday. I'm pretty excited about that, and I appreciate each and every one of you for the support, as always, on the channel. We'll be back tomorrow on Birds 365, hopefully with Mike Gill and BLG, our usual Wednesday suspects. So looking forward to talking to them. One more super chat here on the way out. Dirty Air checks in. J-Mac, favorite diva was Gold Dust. Can you confirm, John?
Not a diva. For those who don't know, Gold Dust is Cody Rhodes' brother, Dustin Runnels.
Boy, this wrestling stuff is deep, huh, man?
Yeah. It played a character, Gold Dust. Now, Marlena, who was the ballet of Gold Dust, I liked. That is Terry Runnels, who was Dustin's former wife. Very fetching lady in her prime.
Good stuff, Johnny Mac. We got to run. I appreciate it. Key says he recognized the hat. Yeah, I had to pull out the Kango after Jalen Hurts went up on the podium rocking the Kango with that big-ass chain. That thing is crazy that Jalen rocks. That thing is fresh looking. All right, everybody. Appreciate it. Johnny Mac, good show, brother. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it. Catch you tomorrow on Birds 365.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.